Welcome to League of Lit, where we discuss books, adaptations, and anything else we wish to talk about and tie it to lit, because we can.
This is a very special episode because this is a book/adaptation that Kara picked for her birthday.
It is. It's also special because it's the first episode of our second season.
Yay, season 2! What up?
Like, can you believe that we're on season 2?
Honestly, I just can't believe that we sat and did 22 episodes last season, so...
We have 22 more that we're going to do.
Just for this season. Hold on. There's a lot more in the bank.
Oh, yeah. We're literally taking it one season at a time.
Whew. But yeah, this is... It's going to be a whole new world. I don't think I can sing that.
That's probably about as much as you can.
Of it. Yeah, I did it. So you guys got it. You understood what I was referencing. What I was alluding to. But we're going to start genuinely, and I really like that our spoiler warning goes with our author today. It is a truth universally acknowledged that we are not a spoiler-free podcast. So get ready for spoilers.
This is very true. But before we dive into our spoilers, I feel like it's important to note a couple of things that we are changing because it is a new season. One of them is we're not keeping to, not that we kept very well to it last season, we're not keeping to the 45-minute time limit.
Oh, yeah. Get ready for all the things in your ear holes.
We're going to aim, because we seem to hit it pretty consistently, around 55 minutes. Obviously, if it's more than an hour, it'll be an extended cut and it'll be available on my YouTube channel for your listening ears. And we post all of that on our Tumblr. And we also have a new social account that you can follow. You can find us on Instagram.
At League of Lit Podcast. All one word. Obviously, because Instagram. Come see us there because we're going to be posting clips. We're going to be posting fun little things. We'll be talking about birthdays of some of our favorite people. So it's going to be a good time. We're going to have fun. Get in the action.
Lots of literacy promotion.
Yes, lots of pictures of books.
We're hopping in the Bookstagram world.
Truly, hashtag Bookstagram. So today, what are we talking about, Kara?
We are talking about my favorite Jane Austen novel, which is Northanger Abbey. And it was published after Jane Austen died. And it was published in 1818.
But it was the first of her novels completed.
Yes.
It was completed in 1803, which makes sense, I think, because it's a book about books. Yes.
And it's in a way it kind of like breaks the fourth wall with its narration, which is it's a fun little thing to play with. It's also Jane Austen's only Gothic romance. And it's not really even that much of a romance.
Yeah. Only slightly. I mean, because let's be honest. Henry Tilney, ladies and gentlemen, is the man in this book. And he is a man, Henry Tilney, because he understands muslin really well. According to very, very wide understanding of muslin.
Well, and this is one of the shorter of Jane Austen's novels. Yes. So if you have ever been like daunted by how long Austen's novels have been, this is a good one to start with because it is the shorter of them. Yes. Of the 7. 7, yes.
7, yes. We both had to think about that, which is sad.
Well, the thing is she has 2 unfinished novels that sometimes I count in them. Yes. But they were unfinished. So 7 complete novels.
Which is so sad.
I mean, she got a lot done in the amount of life she had.
In her life, she got a lot done. She was a very busy woman. It's still very sad, though. So today we're really honestly going to be talking, I think, more about the adaptations. We're not going to do a book discussion. Maybe one day you will get a Northanger Abbey book discussion. I'm not going to Pride and Prejudice this episode.
For the record, the Pride and Prejudice book discussion was an accident.
It really was. How long was it? Was it like 4 hours?
That entire first sitting, because we recorded all of the Pride and Prejudice episodes in 2 sittings.
Yes.
And I think it was a grand total of like 6 or 7 hours.
It's really long, y'all. Which it's great. It's on her YouTube channel. Please go listen to it. We have a lot of thoughts about Pride and Prejudice, obviously. Mostly about the adaptations, but
also the book discussion is not 6 or 7 hours. Like, the whole like, us sitting and talking about the book and
Yeah.
the adaptations took us about 6 or 7 hours.
I feel like the book discussion ended up being like almost 2
I think that's
when you
around.
finally like cut it all down.
Yeah, I think
Not the
that's
point.
what
We're
it was.
talking about Northanger Abbey today, not Blackbird.
We're getting sidetracked here already.
We really
This is
are.
a great
It's
start
really
off
are.
to the season.
So today we're gonna focus really on 2 adaptations. I think we'll mention a third because I did watch that thing that you sent me
Okay.
where she compared the those two. But we're gonna really focus on the 2007, which is a PBS. I almost said PBC. A PBS masterpiece production, and then we're gonna talk about the Kate Moreland Chronicles, which is a web series. Is that the only one?
Yes. And I mean, like, we're gonna mention a couple others because there are some
Yes, but
others
those
that
are the ones I
exist,
watched.
but, like, those are the only 2 that we're really probably gonna deep dive into. One of the ones that we'll mention, there's not a whole lot that we can deep dive into because of reasons that we'll get to when we talk about it. But to give, like, a quick overview of Northanger Abbey, we have our heroine, Catherine Morland, which when we first meet her, she's about 15, like, at the beginning, and we kinda get a breeze through. We really like, the whole first chapter is getting, like, an overview of Catherine's life leading up to her being 17.
Mm-hmm.
And we learn that she, was never really suspected of being capable of being a heroine.
Yeah.
While it's not necessarily, like, clear what would classify her as a heroine, what, um, what Jane Austen is referring to is how in all of the novels of that day and age, like, there were set, like, standards to be
Mm-hmm.
considered a heroine. And looking at Catherine Morland, you would never suspect that. And Catherine is
Yeah.
kind of a middle child. She is child number 4 of 10.
God, 10 children. Which was very
And
impressive back then, but my God.
and she is rather plain in her looks. She's more of a tomboy because she preferred cricket than, like, to, being pretty and whatnot. But at 15, she's considered almost pretty. And so, like, there's a whole, like, discussion of how she's coming into her looks and whatnot. But Catherine never really had much exposure to anybody outside of her family before the age of 17.
Mhm.
And because of that, she considered to have, like, no love interest before 17, which, I mean, it is what it is. Not many. Everyone has their own path that they take on that one.
Yeah.
But she gets invited to go with, her neighbors, the Allens, to go stay in 6 weeks in Bath, and that's where a lot of, like, fashionable society exists. And in Bath, they meet the Thorpes, which Mrs. Thorpe is an old school friend of Mrs. Allen, so there wasn't any, like, suspicion of there being a problem with that connection. And the Thorpes have several children, and it turns out that the, eldest brother happened to be friends with one of Catherine's brothers, and so, like, there was another thing that, quote, "recommended the connection." And the eldest sister, Isabella, befriends Catherine, and they get really close and become like sisters, and they go on a whole wild ride, uh, in Bath of, you know, talking about boys and, being silly teenage girls. Because it's
Mhm.
not really clear, because it's never really stated what Isabella's age is.
No, she's just the eldest sister of the
Right. So
Thorpes.
with the way that she acts, I'm guessing she's around the same age as Catherine, but she's just had a little bit more exposure to society. She could be maybe a couple years older.
Yeah, I feel like yeah, maybe 20, because she gives me very like Kitty, but like if Kitty had grown up and actually knew how to use her sort of like female wiles, you know, like the shoulder movement,
Uh-huh.
her feminine wiles. Like
Yes.
but she's like Kitty if Kitty were way meaner.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. And another person that they meet that Catherine meets in Bath is Henry Tilney.
Is it Henry Tilney? I love him.
And Henry Tilney is a really, really good Austen hero, in my opinion.
He's such a
Um,
gentleman.
he really is. And I mean, like, he's very genuine in
Yeah.
all of his approaches to things. He wants to make sure things are proper, and he's trying to make sure he doesn't step on anybody's toes if there are other things that have already been like stated and aren't understanding. Like he's trying very hard to make sure he's not.
Yeah. He's
Uh,
definitely somebody who really respects the women in his life and
yes,
women in general, but especially the women in his life.
yes,
But I think it's something
and
he sort of gained watching his mother go through what she went through.
I think so. And he also seems to have a really good relationship with his sister, which we also get to meet, Eleanor. Like they have a very strong bond, and I get the sense that maybe Eleanor might be like a couple years older than Catherine.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely no one that we encounter on a regular basis that's the same age as Catherine. But yeah, so we meet the Tilneys, and at one point, Catherine gets invited to come and stay at their house, Northanger Abbey, and that's a whole adventure. And
I mean, she calls it it's a gothic. Well, it's like satirical gothic novel, but
yes,
it definitely the Northanger Abbey, the sort of the latter half of the book is where you really get that more like gothic romance, because obviously the whole time she's talking about the Mysteries of Udolpho, which is this book that she's sort of become obsessed with.
yes, that's
Um,
by Anne Radcliffe, and it is an actual book that
it is
we
an actual
may or
book.
may
You
not
can
dive
actually
into
read
one
it.
day.
Yeah, we may try to hit up the Mysteries of Udolpho one day. We'll see if that ever happens.
I don't know. I've read it once.
But she's reading this gothic romance novel, and then sort of Isabella sort of introduces her to several other ones that they talk about, but the Mysteries of Udolpho is definitely the main one.
Yes.
And we sort of see Catherine live in this, it's almost she lives in a fantasy world version of her world in some ways
Hmm.
inside her head.
Yes, and
And you see that
it's
through
very.
her little flashbacky thing, specifically in the 2007, but we'll get there.
Yeah, I mean, like the way that the adaptations take that, they handle it really well, and it's very common, I think, especially while you're still a teenager, to have your
Mm-hmm.
daydreams, and you're gonna dream about different things, and it's it's gonna go the way that it goes, and for Catherine, she takes it a little too far, and her wild imagination gets runs away with her, and she ends up getting in trouble because of it,
Just a little bit.
and she feels 100% awful every single time that it happens,
Oh,
because it does
truly.
happen a couple of times. Then, like a big incident happens that makes it so where Catherine has to leave Northanger, and then Henry Tilney comes and like essentially chases her down at her house in Fullerton.
And professes his love.
Yes, and they start perfect happiness at 18 and 26.
Love that for them.
Yes.
So, do we want to get into our first adaptation, the 2007 PBS masterpiece adaptation?
I think
Um,
I think going in chronological order
you
might
want
be
to do that
fun.
instead?
Yeah. The first one that we're just gonna briefly touch on, because for all intents and purposes, it doesn't exist. Like if you look at IMDb, this adaptation exists nowhere. But it popped up on BritBox, which I was like, what is this? What do you mean that there was an adaptation that was made in 1987?
I can't. When you sent me the link to You Can't Unwatch It, is that what it was called?
Yeah.
You Can't Unwatch It, which is a YouTube channel or series.
Yeah.
Um, this girl is comparing the 1987 and the 2007. And when she started showing clips from it, I was very concerned. I was very concerned for these people that were in this. I hope they're okay now. I hope they're not like traumatized, because it's like an 80s rock, gothic,
Oh, it's a piece
smooth,
of work.
smooth jazz monster piece. Like,
Like, I don't know if I want to watch it just to
I
say
don't.
that I have, or
After
if I just
watching the
want to
clips that
run
she
the other
had,
way because
nah,
of the clips that I got to see.
she
But to
showed
like,
clips and I went, I'm done.
yeah.
I'm
So
done
what
here.
little I was able to find, because I was able to pull all of this off of BritBox because it's what they had in their little blurb. This was directed by John Jones, which I'm going to talk about John Jones in a second, but we'll just keep going down the list here. Catherine was played by Catherine Scheslinger. I have no idea who she is.
No.
Henry is played by Peter Firth, which Peter Firth has been in a number of things. But the thing that I know him from is MI5, which is a BBC show about their secret service,
Intelligence
like
service, yeah.
intelligence. Yeah, they're like FBI, CIA stuff. Like he played a very prominent character in that show. And I'm sorry, based on like what this compare and contrast that we both watched, I gather that Firth's Tilney is no Colin Firth, Mr. Darcy.
Yeah.
And it's very
He's
uncomfortable.
very creepy in the clips that she played for us.
So creepy.
And very like sort of derogatory towards Catherine in a
It
lot of
almost
ways.
it almost makes me feel like it's not the Henry Tilney that you read in the book, and that
It's
kind of
not.
makes me mad.
It's like they took Henry Tilney and they were like, let's put Mr. Wickham here.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. Just pick a bad character. Just pick
Yeah.
a bad boy.
Yeah. Isabella was played by Cassie Stewart. John was played by John Coy. Eleanor is played by Ingrid Lacey. Frederick played by Greg Hicks. The General was played by Robert Hardy, who was in Harry Potter and the 95 adaptation of Sense and Sensibility. He was Fudge in Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Um, Mr. Allen was played by Joffrey Charter, and Mrs. Allen, I feel like I'm going to butcher this name, but it says Googie Withers is what I got off of BritBox.
Okay. Okay, Googie. I see you.
But this adaptation does not exist on IMDb, so I have no way of actually confirming that the next piece of information I'm going to tell you is in fact true, because for the 2007 adaptation that was made for PBS Masterpiece was also directed by John Jones.
Yes.
The names are spelled the exact same way.
So I don't know if it's the same person.
Like, because it's such a generic name, it could potentially be two different people.
Yeah.
But I'm concerned that it's the same.
That's only 20 years. So like realistically it could be the same guy.
It could be.
But if it is, he did a much better job in the 2007 version.
Yes. And I don't know how much of it, because I have no idea since I can't find anything else on this adaptation. I have no idea who wrote the 87.
Yeah.
However, the 2007 was written by Andrew Davies, who is Austen king of adaptations.
Truly. Andrew Davies has written so many Austen adaptations.
But like when I look at John Jones's like credits on IMDb, this looks like the 2007 is the beginning of his career. So that's where it's like, maybe it is different, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, maybe it's a different person.
I'm not sure at all.
It's hard to say with so little information.
Yeah, but the cast of the 2007, Catherine is played by Felicity Jones. This is near the beginning of Felicity's career. I know this is the first thing I ever saw Felicity Jones in, and I love her in it.
Yeah, you'll know her from Rogue One.
Yeah, that's probably her most notable one since then. Yeah. Henry is played by J.J. Field.
Who I love with everything in my heart. If you've ever seen Austen Land, he's great in that movie.
He is also a member of the like little regiment in Captain America: First Avenger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's the French guy.
Isabella is played by Carey Mulligan.
Very famous now.
Yes, and this is post Pride and Prejudice 2005. Mm-hmm. And so it's very interesting to see her go from one Austen hero or one Austen character to another Austen character, especially since you made the connection of Isabella being a Kitty-like character because Carey played Kitty in the 05 Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah, I think if Kitty had ever figured her life out, this is where she would have gone.
Possibly. James is played by Hugh O'Connor. Hadn't really ever heard of him before this, and I
No.
don't know that I've seen him in anything else that he's been in after this.
Mm-mm.
John is played by William Beck,
Very
who is
notable.
the only thing that I knew I recognized his face when I first saw it, but the only thing that I know him from based off of like when I was looking through his credits is the '06 Robin Hood TV show.
Yeah. Which I love him in that show. If you've never seen the BBC Robin Hood TV show, I highly recommend.
It's a good
It's
one.
such a good show. I own it on DVD.
Eleanor is played by Catherine Walker. Hadn't really seen her in anything before this. Her most recent thing that she's been in was Cursed, the
Yes, the
show
television show.
on Netflix that has to do with Nimue. Frederick is played by Mark Diamond. Again, never seen him before. Haven't really seen him since.
Nope.
General Tilney is played by Liam Cunningham, who played a very notable role in Game of Thrones.
Yes.
And I think he's done like a bunch of other things too, but that's just happened to be what I know him from.
Yeah. He's brilliant as General Tilney.
Mrs. Allen is played by Sylvestra Latuzel. Mr. Allen is played by Desmond Barrett.
Those are your most notable characters. There is also a narration of the 2007 version. It's supposed to be the voice of Jane Austen, and that is Geraldine James, who voices the Jane Austen. She's the author.
It goes with that like fourth wall break that I mentioned for the novel, because there are different things that it's clear that it's the author talking to the reader, not, oh, well, let me just tell you some things about the character, kind of like how Harry Potter is written in third person. Like Northanger Abbey is also written in third person, but there are certain moments of the narration in Northanger that just makes it feel like, no, this is just like the author talking. This isn't like, oh, this is the omniscient third person that just knows all these things about Catherine Morland. Like, no.
Yeah.
It's very poignant.
Yeah.
One of the things that the 2007 does really well is the interspersing of the gothic daydreams.
Yeah, and they do them too as like her actual like dreams.
Yes.
She's always asleep, which I think is smart.
Well, it's like there's only one time when she's not asleep. She's just like daydreaming in the carriage on their way to Bath. Yeah. But other than that, like everything is her. Like she's literally been asleep this entire time.
Yes.
And I mean, like you get to see, because they reuse the actors. Like, because like there's one scene, there's like one dream that she has that it's JJ Field and William Beck fighting for her. So that would be Tilney and John Thorpe, because those were the two gentlemen that she technically got acquainted with, because she didn't officially meet John Thorpe at the same time that she met Henry Tilney in the upper rooms. But
no, it's like, really cool that they sort of like all of her gothic daydreams sort of correlate with what's actively going on in her life.
Yes. And it's kind of a reflection of how she's processing through everything.
I mean, this Mrs. Allen is great. She is the many muslin references.
She obsesses over Henry Tilney's understanding of the muslin, which, to be fair, in the novel, Miss Allen is kind of attached to that idea.
Yes.
But this particular adaptation kind of drives it home.
Even in the end, she mentions it. I was like, Mrs. Allen, this man made one comment about your muslin when he accidentally put a hole in it. You need to move on, girl. One comment. And she is attached. She's like, he has such an understanding of muslin. Like, Mrs. Allen, we understand that he really loves muslin. You know, he just knows. That's what makes him such a great guy, is that he just knows.
He understands laundry.
He understands laundry, which, like, honestly, how you gonna find a man that understands laundry? They just throw it in there, Kara.
The thing about Carey Mulligan and William Beck as John and Isabella, because like in the book you can see that they like play, John and Isabella like play off each other really well.
Yes.
And they kind of in a way egg each other on and rile each other up into whatever scheme they've decided, and they do their best to be as manipulative as possible. But because Catherine is so naive, she doesn't realize that that's what's going on.
Yeah.
And because Catherine just, assumes the best of everybody. She believes that everyone else also has the same good intentions that she has because she hasn't been introduced to anything else.
Yeah.
And I mean, I find William Beck's Thorpe very, very annoying from beginning to end. There
And
is
I think
no
you're
moment.
supposed to. I
Oh,
truly think you're supposed to.
I think you are too. I think there are other adaptations out there where you're supposed to try at least a little bit.
Mm-mm. I didn't want to try with this version. The way he was looking at her in the upper
It's
room,
so
already,
creepy.
sir, we are done. No, sir, you looked at me like that. I gotta go. Excuse me, I gotta leave.
But like the thing is, and Henry Tilney like brings this up, and this is where like for those of us that were not a part of this society that didn't like understand, oh, there's a certain process to everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was very adamant, no, I have to make sure that we are introduced properly. Like we can't be seen talking until then.
He goes and
And
gets like the master of ceremonies. He's such a gentleman.
then he goes through this whole like the way that every adaptation handles the like standard questions that you are supposed to talk about when you first meet somebody
Yes,
new.
very
It's
fun.
so cute. And I mean, honestly, like we've talked about enemies to lovers on this podcast before. This is more of a friends to lovers.
Which is also another great trope.
It is, but it's not something that you see super often anymore.
I think it's because it's not typically. I guess it's not that it's not something, but I think that like people find like enemies to lovers or like they were roommates to be, I think, more interesting. Whereas like I think friends to lovers is really what you should aspire to
I
in
would
your
agree.
regular life. But
I
I think
agree.
a lot of people are like that's not spicy enough.
Well, and I think that's what it boils down to is enemies to lovers, and pretty much any other kind of trope that is not friends to lovers offers more drama opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still a lot of drama that happens for
People are
Catherine and
dramatic.
Henry. Like
People are very
because
dramatic.
because John and Isabella step in and it's so weird with Isabella. I could probably like it honestly bothers me that one of like there's a really good quote about friendship in Northanger Abbey,
Yes.
and Isabella is the one that says it.
Well, she's, I think, very, very smart. And I think, I mean, obviously to a point, the end of the novel does not go well for her. But like, I do think to a point, she's very smart and she really sees people. So looking at Catherine, she immediately knew. She was like, I can manipulate this poor girl into anything I want. And at that point, she, I think, like, like several other people had sort of been misled by John misunderstanding Catherine's relationship to the Allens and thinking that she was their heir because they had no children.
Mm-hmm.
I think he probably said, this girl is the heir. We know her brother. Let's get in there.
Mm-hmm.
And Isabella was like, of course, let's do this. Not to lay any of the blame off of Isabella because she still gets all of it. But like,
Oh my gosh.
but like, I just think she's sort of the brains of the operation.
I mean, like,
And John is kind of the brawn. If that makes sense.
yeah, it does make sense. So, like, there are like two quotes that Isabella says in this book that are related to friendship, and honestly, they're really good. Like, friendship is really the finest balm for pangs of disappointed love. Like,
Yeah.
that is right around the time that like Isabella and Catherine are really starting to form their relationship. And Henry Tilney has, for whatever reason, is nowhere to be seen in Bath. Catherine has met Henry, and then now Henry's gone. Like,
Henry's
she has
taking a break. He's busy.
she has no idea why he's gone. Why he was gone was because he had only come into town to secure lodging for his family before his father and his sister joined him in Bath. So like that's
Yes.
literally all that was about. But the one that like is honestly like it's a really good description of kind of like how friendship is, which is there's nothing I would not do for those who are really my friends. I have no notion of loving people by halves. It's not my nature.
I do
That
think
is
that that's true for
I
her.
think it's very true to an extent, but like it feels a little bit more of a betrayal with the end
Yeah.
because of how much Isabella does in fact betray Catherine and in turn also betrays James.
Yeah. I think she kind of views that concept as like it's the person that I am interested in being friends with at that moment,
Mhm.
rather than those are relationships that stay. Like I don't think she believes in like friends that last forever. She's like, these are the people and these are my people. Oh wait, there's these people over here. These are my people now. And this dude over here, he's my man now. Like I let him, do things and then he's like a bye. So I think that's in her mind. Everybody is her friend and she sort of chooses when to be loyal.
I think that makes sense for her.
Because at the time she's really betraying James. I mean, obviously she starts to while Catherine is still there, but at the real time when she's really betraying James, Catherine's at Northanger.
Mhm.
So she doesn't have Catherine anymore. She's like, okay, well, who am I going to latch on? James is gone.
Mhm.
Catherine's gone. I'm going to latch on Frederick.
Mhm.
So I think that that's how she views that.
Yeah. But like the way that that Isabella and John try so hard to manipulate and push Catherine around, that's where the drama comes from
Mm-hmm.
for Catherine and Henry.
Oh, that's so sad when John
Because
manipulated her into going on that ride.
my gosh.
Henry and
Like
Eleanor look so sad.
they do. And it's like, okay, how great is this Blaze Castle?
We never even get to it.
Exactly.
That's like, I think that was her point. Like, it wasn't worth the ride.
Mhm.
It wasn't worth the betrayal. But I think all of that is just, it's all life lessons for Catherine
It is. And there's a
on
lot
who
of
she should
growing that
trust.
yeah, there and I think to an extent I feel like James could have done more, but he's such a minor character in the story
Yeah, it's hard to
that
really like put that on him.
right, but like as a sibling, like shouldn't you feel some level of responsibility for allowing this?
Well,
But because it's really mostly like Isabella and John who are doing like the pushing, but at one point James gets in on the pushing too.
I think James is sort of, I think one of Isabella's jobs is to like blind James with her feminine wiles. I just like to say that. And her job is to, tell, she's like, John, go get Catherine to come. We're going to go do this. I'll make sure James is in on it. And I think she sort of almost kind of like seduces him into it, without the seduction.
Yeah.
She's like, we should go on this ride. I really want to go on this ride with you. And we can't go by ourselves. And we can't just have John there as the third wheel. Like, Catherine has to come. She's my best friend.
Yeah.
James just doesn't understand.
Like we're going to
So,
forget the fact that there are two other Thorpe sisters.
right? Who are those people?
Like
They are not
why
important to the story, Kara,
like why can't one of them go?
because they are not in line to have lots of money, according to John and Isabella.
True. It's very frustrating, especially when they like try it again. And
Yeah.
like you can see the resolve that Catherine gains from the first time that they did it.
Yeah, she's like, I'm
She's
not
like,
doing this again.
yeah.
Y'all screwed up my chance to hang out with my friends the first time.
And
I am allowed to have other friends.
they even try to like throw the Tilney family under the bus with the rumors that go around that don't really have much of foundation for anything.
But also, the rumors that go around are mostly about the older Tilney, who Catherine's not hanging out with.
Exactly.
She's hanging out with Henry and
Mhm.
Eleanor, who are great,
Mhm.
and not Frederick, who is a mean and terrible person. I want to spend time talking about JJ as Henry
Okay.
because JJ A is just an excellent actor,
Mhm.
and B, he's, I think, like Colin Firth, sort of born to play this role, which I don't think you get with every. I don't know if I've said this before about another character. I don't want to like repeat myself, because what if we've done Pride and Prejudice and Emma,
Mm-hmm.
and now Northanger.
Yes.
So I don't know if I've ever said this before about maybe anybody but Colin Firth. I don't think you get that as often.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these picks for the men in the Austen movies, who admittedly, pretty much all of them do really good jobs. I said pretty much. But like sometimes, and I think Colin Firth was a good example of this, and JJ as well, you just get this guy who you're like, were you made for this?
Mm-hmm.
Were you made to be like this gentleman who understands muslin and like is gonna be a clergyman and has a gothic like castle,
Yeah.
but it's not yours? So like,
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of sad. But like whatever, you have this cute little house. So
Mm-hmm.
also, I just really love JJ. I could watch him in almost anything. He was great.
I had
I
watched him once in a Miss Marple episode, and he was the villain. It was great.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
See, that's what I don't think he gets enough of, is those sort of scandalous roles. Because he plays essentially, I don't know if you've ever seen Austenland, but I will reference it again because I do like that movie. He plays essentially just Mr. Tilney again, but like mixed with a little bit of Darcy in Austenland. And
he's a combination of
the two
different,
of them, I think.
of different Austen heroes. There's like a dash of everything.
Yeah, which I think was the point.
Yes.
He's supposed to somehow be every
Austen hero.
He did really good. Austenland's a great movie. I highly recommend. We're gonna move on from Austenland and JJ. We'll move on to something else and say.
Is there anything else we want to say about the 2007 adaptation?
I will say about this adaptation is I do think that there, especially if you watch the comparison between the 1987 one, there's a nice contrast between sort of the gothic versus like real life. And then obviously when we get to Northanger, it's a little bit higher gothic because we are at Northanger Abbey, which is a very old estate. Which like there's gonna be ghosts. That's just facts.
Yeah.
But I don't think it takes it too far ever, really. Not even in her little fantasies do I ever think, because that's what they're supposed to be.
It's the right amount.
So highly recommend. It's a good time for all. You'll have people to hate. You'll have people to love. And it's that what it's all about.
Yes. Yes.
Would we like to move on to the next one? Because I know you have many words. Is Kate Moreland Chronicles next, or is there more?
So there's one little adaptation that apparently no longer exists on the YouTubes anymore.
Oh.
There was another web series called Northbound.
Okay.
And it came out around like 2015, 2016. Like it was around, I think it may have been like a little before Kate Moreland Chronicles came out. And it was surrounding a college student, obviously Kate Moreland, and there were some things that honestly, as a whole, it wasn't that strong of an adaptation. Like, did I watch every single episode of it? Yes, because Northanger's my favorite, and I wanted to know how they were actually going to handle everything, because they did change things. Like they gender bent James, which created another level. Like you had that LGBTQ representation with Isabella falling for James, or Jamie as she was called in that adaptation. But there was just a lot of it that kind of just felt like a little bit of an afterthought. It wasn't always well thought out, but it existed. When I was trying to find it to like rewatch it,
you couldn't find it.
Like I went back to like previous posts where I had like shared it before. Nothing.
Wow.
Like videos are gone from YouTube, so I don't know what's going on with that one. I guess I should also mention there is a modernization novel that is the same name, it's still Northanger Abbey, but the author that took on, because there were several authors that were challenged within this project, to take Jane Austen's novels and modernize them. And the author that was challenged for Northanger Abbey was Val McDiarmid. And overall, she did really well. Like, it's very much the same story, and it's just put in a modern setting. My one complaint for the whole novel is, instead of it being like classic Gothic literature, because you could totally get away with a modern woman being obsessed with, classic Gothic literature. It is
Yes.
possible. Hello,
No.
podcast.
We have a podcast about literature? What, Kara? No.
But instead, Val McDiarmid decided that Catherine's obsession would be Twilight by Stephanie Meyer.
I remember you telling me about this, and I refused to be a part of it.
It's the only flaw of Catherine Morland, honestly.
It's a big flaw. It's a big flaw.
It is a big flaw. But that's
a big old flaw.
You can still like tell that the Thorpes are no good. You can still like see that Henry has the most amazing heart in the world. Like, everything, all the other elements are there. That's just like that one little, this bugs me.
Did you see that Twilight's getting like a rejuvenation because it's all on Netflix now?
That's dumb.
We don't need it.
No, we don't.
You will not find two people who will enjoy Twilight in this podcast.
No.
Moving on, though.
So now we'll talk about the last adaptation that we have on our list, which is the Kate Morland Chronicles, which was done in 2016 by a production company called Apple Juice Productions.
Love that for them. I don't really like Apple Juice, but good job.
They haven't really done a whole lot. Like, after they did Kate Morland Chronicles, they did a couple different Lily Evans themed things, kind of being in the Marauders era of stuff. Yep. So, but this web series was directed by Amanda Taylor, who was also Isabella Thorpe in this adaptation. And it was written by Ellen Lloyd, which I think Ellen did a decent job.
Yeah.
There were some things I'm like, I don't understand this one, but overall it's an enjoyable adaptation. Catherine is played by Madeline Thatcher. Henry is played by, I'm probably going to butcher this name, Dele Opefe. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I don't.
I'm so sorry. We've ruined your name. You have a very nice face.
Deep apologies. James is played by Rob Zimmerman. John is played by Frankie Madrill. Eleanor is played by Erica Vuba. Again, apologies on the last name there. And Leslie Allen is played by Charla Cochran, which Leslie Allen is meant to be Mrs. Allen because they gave her a first name, because not that we never ever learn a first name for either of the Allens.
And this sets up Catherine, being a blogger. She's a very nice blog where she talks all about her favorite television show, The Mysteries of Udolpho, which I think is brilliant.
I love the way that they modernized that.
I was like, oh my God, it would make a really good TV show. It's a lot as a novel, but like, it wouldn't make a bad television show.
And they turned Henry Tilney into an actor, and Henry Tilney starred as the main male, Luke Valancourt.
What a way to interlock it all. Yes. So Kate starts a sort of video blog, where she decides to get a job, which I'm going to say the only unrealistic thing about this entire thing, other than the fact that she ends up with an actor at the end, is that she gets a job in the first episode of this blog. Well, I guess leading into the second. I was like, man, that's not how jobs work. She gets a journalism job.
But the thing is like, it could kind of work that way simply because all she really did, and she wasn't really expecting to be offered a job.
Yeah.
Like, she was just looking to make connections towards that path, because in this adaptation, the Allens own a big magazine persona.
Yeah.
And she gets offered a job. I mean, overall, this casting is fun. It's a very diverse cast, and I don't really feel like things change. I will say, because I think I've mentioned it before, where because of the way that a lot of people try to like modernize some of the adaptations of classic lit, by bringing them to a modern audience, they do try and, quote, check off the box of LGBTQ representation. And I
Yeah.
feel like they did well with one of the characters. The other honestly made no sense.
I think the one you're talking about that made no sense was just that like it was a throwaway.
Yeah, it's just like casually mentioned that
And then that's it. And then
that
we're like,
James
but
is apparently bi.
we never get anything else off of that. We
Yeah, like
can't have more information.
it literally just felt like, oh, we've checked the box.
She was like, oh, is it over with David? Boom. That was the end of that.
Right. Like it's such, it feels very unnecessary.
Yeah. Because they do such a good job of it with Eleanor.
Mm-hmm.
Of it being a point that they, they bring her girlfriend in as far as like talking about her, and she is discussed and like actively she calls at one point. Like, but with James, it was literally just, oh, by the way, he's bi.
But like the thing about it all is, for James's storyline specifically, all that he really exists for is kind of the like connection,
Yes,
for Isabella,
mm-hmm.
and kind of Isabella's story arc in a way.
Yeah.
So it was never a necessary thing unless you were going to like completely gender bend the character.
Or at least go somewhere with it in the end.
Right.
Like once he and Isabella aren't a thing, like, I don't know, is there anybody else in your life? Like anybody want to tell me about? Like, no? Okay. We're just gonna move on. He has a phone call and then he never comes back.
Yeah. It felt very,
yeah,
very dropped in as far as character development goes.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's like, if you're going to go for checking off that box, make sure you have well-developed characters.
Please. Even if he's only in like 4 episodes at most, I think.
Yeah. Essentially, like, Catherine Morland is set up as a fangirl, with like her OG fandom being the Mysteries of Udolpho. How she had an entire Tumblr dedicated to Luke Valancourt, aka Henry Tilney. Like it,
I love this for her.
and because this is an interesting thing, I wasn't really sure when I first started like watching it, and like I blogged my entire way through watching this series. There's 7 different blog posts on my website where I go through episode by episode and just like document my reactions.
Yeah.
With the fact that they made Kate Morland 24, where in the source material our heroine is 17, I wasn't really sure how well the naivete that is supposed to exist for Catherine was going to play out.
Yeah.
Because of where she's at in life, and this could just be from my own personal experience, I don't see how you can hold on to really any level of naive after going through college.
I mean, I guess it just depends on the person. And I do think she's a little less naive in the Kate Morland Chronicles than she is in the source material.
I mean, it doesn't take her very long to establish.
She does a better job of like bouncing back from things when they happen.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, she still does stupid things. But I think with the right people who are doing it, anybody can be manipulated in this way.
I think that's true.
If the right people are doing it, which to me, John was not the right people. I wanted to punch him every time he was on screen. I was just like, go away.
I also just don't understand how you could really take and accept that Amanda Taylor and Frankie Medrill were siblings.
I mean, maybe they were adopted.
Maybe.
I mean, obviously that's not something that's explained. I'm just trying to like...
Yeah, but like, it's like,
yeah.
Okay. And there is a level that like some of my opinions about it comes from the fact that like I thoroughly enjoy this novel. It is one of my favorites. Even when I reread it in preparation for this podcast, it's still one of my favorites. So I don't. It just it could be that some of my opinions come from the fact that like no, this is how this is. And like obviously everyone can take the liberties that they wish to take, but like you still have to convey certain things. And
Yeah.
I don't know, I just didn't buy it.
I think the most believable part of the Kate Moreland Chronicles, and I will say I only watched it once, and that was enough, which is fine. But like, I do think that Dele gave a very good Henry Tilney.
Yes.
He was still very gentlemanly. He was never creepy or weird like we find out he is in the 1987 version. He almost has this a little differently, like from like say the 2007 version. He almost has this sort of like what's that? Like not childlike. It's not what I want to say, but that's what I'm going to say. There's like childlike wonder about him, even as an adult, because he's 26 in the show.
I'm not sure that they ever
I think because it's been
established.
10 years since The Mysteries of Udolpho, and he was 18 when it stopped filming.
That would make him 28 then. I was gonna
So
say, I was
he's
like, I don't.
28.
I was like,
He's
I
at
don't
least
remember.
27. I don't know.
I don't. As I was gonna say, it's like I don't remember them
Couple of years
establishing an
older than
age for
Kate.
him. But yeah.
Yeah. I just think that he at some point says I was 18 when we stopped filming, and we're getting the 10-year thing. So I feel like he's 28, but I could be wrong.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
I feel like because, and they established this, Udolpho was the last thing he did as an actor. I think he spent all of this time sort of finding out who he was and understanding that who he thought he was going to be when he was becoming an actor as a young adult is not who he is now. I think he sort of gets to kind of relive childhood in a way that I think as like somebody who was filming things at like 17 and 18 would not have gotten to do. Because, you look at child actors now, they go to school on set. Like, they don't have lives that we had when we were in school.
Right.
So I think he's sort of reliving all of that, which I think is kind of why he understands Kate. Because she also is kind of like that childlike, youthful. I'm going to say youthful. I think that sounds better. Youthful. She finds joy in a lot of things.
No, they definitely both take joy in the little things,
which is nice. I think that's very nice. I think that's something to bond over. I thought they were cute. I'm pretty sure I follow Madeline Thatcher on TikTok, just FYI.
I do too.
Yeah, because I was like, is this that girl from TikTok? She was very familiar. I didn't know that was who she was when I followed her. I just thought she was funny. But I do appreciate that now I have something to put her face to.
Well, and the thing about like a lot of Madeline's like social media posts, like now, it feels very similarly to the journey that we get to watch Kate Moreland go on in the Kate Moreland Chronicles.
So I was like,
and I'm excited for her. I'm excited for her for that. So a little bit of like character notes. Isabella is just like a little too over the top in my opinion.
Okay.
It's just I don't know. It feels a little intense sometimes of like her poking at Kate for her interest in Henry Tilney, which like Kate openly admits several times it has nothing to do with him as a person because she's never gotten to know him as a person. Yeah. It's everything to do with Luke Valancourt, who is this character that she really cares about.
Yeah, and she's getting to know Henry this whole time. Which I think I really appreciate that Kate can separate the two of them. Because I think a lot of people have a hard time separating their favorite characters from their favorite actors.
It's very true. That is why Tumblr exists.
Oh my god, because people couldn't separate the characters from the actors who played them.
Not at all.
I don't know what they did with Isabella, but she feels almost just she feels a lot like Caroline in Lizzie Bennet Diaries, where she's just mean for the sake of being mean.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, you're supposed to be pretending to be this girl's friend. Because, like, with Caroline in Lizzie Bennet Diaries, as we've already talked about it,
Mm-hmm.
you sort of get the progression of when things fall apart is when Caroline gets mean.
Mm-hmm.
She's a little shady over here in the
Mm-hmm.
beginning. But,
Yeah.
like, she doesn't get mean until things fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
And in the Kate Moreland Chronicles, she's kind of mean, shady, mean, shady. And in the end, we're like, okay.
Yeah.
We're not friends. But, you know, you've
And I
said your
think
piece and you've apologized.
and I think it's really interesting that we get to see that, because
Yeah.
in the book, as well as in all of the other adaptations that we've talked about, there is no let's see the other side. Let's give Isabella a chance to
No.
say her piece. It's no, we're done. You betrayed my family.
Yeah, Eleanor literally says in the 2007 version, when Catherine says, I'm sorry to have ever known her, Eleanor says, well, soon it will be like you never did.
Mhm.
That is Isabella. And it is interesting, but I think it's because they have to work together
Mhm.
that we got to see, which Kate mentions. She's like, I have to work with her. So, like, I'm going to have to talk to her about this.
Yep.
I think that's the only reason why we get sort of the ending of that storyline.
In a way, it humanizes Isabella a little bit more,
Mm-hmm.
instead of, because when you leave it at we get the letter from Isabella asking Catherine to implore, like, to like beg John or beg James for his forgiveness. Like, there's nothing else in there. So we're left as an audience with this. That was just a crappy thing to do to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, there is no room for forgiveness because you injured somebody who means the world to Catherine.
You are a terrible person. I do
That
think, and I think it helps too when we get, I think, sort of more of James's perspective when it happens, because we get an actual physical video call with him.
Mhm.
Whereas in the 2007 adaptation, it's just a letter.
Yeah.
I think there's more to explore when you get to do something like that.
Mhm.
Of James literally just saying, I'm over it. I'm done. Like, it happened.
Yeah.
It is. And I think from their relationship that is shown in the, I keep wanting to call it a show, the series. I think James is the type of person who's like, I know you have to work with her. Like, if you want to, like, at least be cordial, I'm not gonna be mad.
Mhm.
I'm not her friend.
Yeah.
Don't bring her around me.
And then with John, he's just straight up creepy and seems to have no passion.
He's very weird.
He's
Very
obsessed
weird.
with cars. Okay.
He's obsessed with his Tesla. This is not an ad for Tesla. It's absolutely not an ad for Tesla.
And this is like true of any adaptation, as well as just like the source material from the get-go. I don't see how John could have misinterpreted anything Catherine ever did as she was interested.
Men are stupid, Kara.
I
No
mean,
offense, but full offense to our male audience. Men's be kind of stupid, especially literary men's. There have to be stupid ones.
and I know at one point it's Isabella points out, um, at least in the 2007, and I'm blanking on whether or not it's in the source material, of how, like, well, she canceled the plans with Henry for John. And she's like, no, I didn't. Y'all conned me into that one. Like,
First of all, y'all tricked me into going to the taco truck. No, they did,
which,
but like, still.
as far as plot points that make zero sense,
Is it the taco truck?
why would you bail on your plans for a taco truck?
Not only your plans, your work plans. That was a work call. Don't catch me getting a journalism job where I get my own office and everybody else sitting out in a cubicle and I'm canceling any work. No, I'm going to every work thing that has to be on to. I want to keep the show.
Like,
It was very weird. I don't know if they just didn't have any other, like, they were like, we don't know where to go with this, so taco truck it is, which, like, they do establish that Kate loves food.
but they don't do that until after. It's
I know.
several episodes after that happens.
They should have
So
done it before.
it feels so like, where did this come from? Left
Also,
field?
on a very realistic note, if your celebrity crush / person who played your favorite character was coming in to speak to you or was calling you to talk to you, I don't know who your celebrity crushes are. I don't necessarily think it's important, but if you have one, you can name it. Would you be like, no, I'm just gonna go get tacos?
No.
Exactly. Would never. I'd be like, excuse you, I am chained to this desk until they call me. No, I don't have time.
Like,
I will order some tacos. They'll be delivered right here. Bring me back one.
it is the most useless plot point.
Yeah. I mean, it does its job, but, like, we're like, why did she go get tacos with them? She had plans.
Like,
It's probably the most useless plot point in the entire series.
yes.
Because it's the only moment where I'm like, girl, you just let them talk you into go get tacos.
Mm-hmm.
What?
And then they
No.
try again with crepes, and it's like, what is
This is
this?
figgy of faith. They know that she loves food, which they just needed to. I think if they had established it earlier, I'd be less, like, annoyed.
I think so too.
If, like, from episode 1, she's mentioned in food.
But like, it'd be different if it was like, oh, we're gonna go stand in line for the new release of the comic book for the character that Henry is slated to
Yeah.
play. That would have made a little bit more sense.
Yeah, something she would have really been interested in. Because, like, tacos are good, but I can go get tacos later.
Seriously.
Yeah.
It'd be more like tell me what the name of that taco truck is. I'll go after my meeting.
Also, why is you trying to go all the way to a taco truck that's, like, 30 minutes away in LA on your lunch break? You can't get anywhere in LA in 30 minutes. I think somebody says that. I think she
Yes.
says that.
Yes.
I've never, okay, I have been to LA, but, like, I've never, like, been to LA and, like, done the LA things. I've been to LA so that I could go to Disneyland. It's different. It's a different part of LA. I went to West Hollywood and Disneyland. Those are the things I did in LA. But even I know you can't get anywhere in 30 minutes in LA. You can't go like a block down the street unless you walk in 30 minutes.
Like,
it didn't make sense.
No, it didn't. And I mean, like, there's a lot of things with John that doesn't make sense. And
no, he's a very odd duck.
He just, for whatever reason, and I think it's probably one of those, like, well, he thinks he's seeing what he wants to see.
Yeah.
When it has nothing to do with what is reality.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, dude. And, like, I don't know why he seems to be so obsessed with, like, well, like, Isabella and James, like, can't be alone together, and or like he doesn't want to be third wheel. It's like, okay, cool, ask somebody else.
You can find somebody in dating apps.
Catherine doesn't have to be the fourth wheel
At everything. And then he's like, well, we were doing, double dates. And she's like, double what? Who is he? What now? Yes, we was doubling like in tennis, my dude. We were not on double dates. When she said that, I was like, yes, doubling like in tennis. I really appreciate this moment. But, like, no, we were not on dates. Like, you never asked me on a date. It's only a date if there's like, hello, would you like to go on a date? Like, yeah, it's too much. Can we talk about Canry for a minute? Isn't that their ship name? I really like Tilneyland. I was upset when that got vetoed. Oh. It does, but I like it. I would go to Tilneyland. It sounds great. Take me to Tilneyland. There's
What
just
would
a
be
bunch of
found
Henry
in
Tilneys.
Tilneyland?
Like,
Okay. It's like, that's the other thing, though.
JJ as Henry would be their mascot. There's just a big cutout of him. I hope JJ hears this one day. I have a brilliant plan for you, JJ. It's gonna make you plenty of money. You know how you were in Austinland? We're gonna create Austinland. We're gonna call it Tilneyland. Jane Austen's not here to get any of this coin, JJ. Come on.
Oh, man.
I liked that one better than Canbury. That just sounds.
I mean, but they go through the whole, like,
Yeah.
process of, no, that's really the best we've got.
Yeah, like hate. That would be the other way. Morny. That's kind of the same thing. No, that doesn't work either. Tilland doesn't work either. Nope, none of them work. You're right.
Nope.
I still like Tilneyland. I still vote for Tilneyland. I would like to put my vote in on the poll for Tilneyland.
And let me just say, it's hilarious that Leslie Allen, who is supposed to be Kate's boss,
Listen,
is
she
all
ships it.
for shipping them together and is like commenting on the videos. And it's
Listen, she introduced them. She sat there and she watched the two of them play back and forth. She went, I gotta go. I'm gonna let y'all do your thing. Bye. And so I think she takes full credit, and she probably asks to be maid of honor at their wedding. She's like, I want to either be maid of honor or I would like to marry you. Those are your options. They're both like, we were gonna invite you, but like, okay. You could come.
Probably asked to like give a speech at their wedding.
I introduced Canry at Comic-Con. I'm thankful and sad that we never got to see General Tilney. I'm thankful because I think it probably would have gone too far. I do think that however they did it, it would have been too much. But I'm sad because I do think he's a very crazy character and an interesting. When you get to see sort of his weird mannerisms and his oddities and his temper, and like like the 2007 adaptation, he's you definitely I think understand more. But they really didn't go with the route that the book goes with his dead wife. Because in the source material, he married her for money.
100%.
Whereas in Kate Morland Chronicles, they married for love. She just didn't like to do the things that he liked to do as far as like going out in public. So I think that's why they didn't do it. And also because we have to cast another adult. That's a lot of work.
Well, I mean, if you really think about it, like the essential characters are Catherine, Henry, Isabella, James, John, and Eleanor.
Yes.
You can get away with just those 6.
No, I agree. I want to talk about Eleanor for a little bit because I loved her. I thought she was a hoot and a half. She's a little stiff.
Yeah, like it took her a second to really like
get into it.
Yeah, and I don't know if that was by design because there are some people who don't feel that all that comfortable on camera.
Yeah.
Or if that was the actress.
Yeah.
So
I think truly you sort of watch her loosen up. Either in the character or in the actress. I really honestly don't know which one it is.
Yeah, I don't either.
But I do think through the process of doing the whole thing, you sort of watch her loosen up. Because I really liked the road trip episode where she falls asleep in the back of the car. That was fun.
The thing is about that specific episode, I don't ever feel like Eleanor was on sleeping drugs. She sounded very drunk.
She really did. Which I've never taken an Ambien, mostly because if I do, I will probably never wake up. But like, I don't know. Yeah, I've never taken an Ambien, so I don't take things that make me sleep because then I just sleep forever. So
I've also just never really been around anybody that's like taken anything to go to sleep. So I'm not really like, I just don't feel like that's how that would go. But I also have read, somewhere that the way you sound when you're really tired is how you are when you're drunk. But I don't know if that's true.
We'd have to test it. This is very like scientific. Very scientific. We could really do some science on this, I think.
Oh, yeah.
We're not going to do any science on this. I'm not doing science experiments to see how drunk I can get.
We're literature people, not science people. Oh, instead of Catherine or Kate being like the heir to the Allen's fortune, she's supposedly going to be the next editor-in-chief of Persona magazine.
Which honestly, the vibes I get from this is that she actually will.
I mean, it's not out of the question if that's something that Kate wanted. But like, why would you make claims, John?
Right?
But at the same time, why does John do anything?
Yeah.
And I mean, like the whole existence of the Thorpe siblings, you just get the sense that they are social climbers, which, to each their own. And so, I mean, I kind of like that we don't see Frederick.
Yeah.
Like, we hear a bunch of bad things, and it probably wouldn't have hurt maybe to have seen, like, some pictures. But, like, we never really needed to actually have a physical body in the camera shot. And have, like, Catherine interact with him. And it's so interesting how they have the compare and contrast between Henry and Frederick of Frederick is designed to be Hollywood's bad boy. And now apparently the general is trying to get Henry to be America's sweetheart or heartthrob, however they wanted to word it.
I don't know. His dad's thought process is a little odd.
Like the fact that he liked to be called the general, even though he had no military training at all.
Right? It makes sense in the source material. Other than that, good web series. I had fun watching it.
I did have some like editing notes that I had made in my made notes in my reactions, because there are some episodes where like the coloration was off. There were some where like audio wasn't quite what it needed to be. I mean, we have our own audio issues on the podcast.
Telling me.
Probably the thing that like bothered me the most was the unnatural jump cuts.
Yeah.
Like, I understand that you could have like a bunch to do, like a bunch of words that you need to say in one shot. Work towards getting them in one shot.
Yeah.
Like, Lizzie Bennett could do it. Why can't you?
Not everybody can be the Lizzie Bennett diary.
I know.
It's a very sad fact, but it is true.
I know. But that's where you could write things in a way to where it's like, okay, if there's a jump cut, and I think that's also like part of the reason why Lizzie Bennett did so well is like with some of the conversational jump cuts that happen, you could see, okay, this was meant to show passing of time. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, they've been talking about this for a while. Got it. But there were some where it's like mid-sentence. Why didn't you just like take a whole take of that one sentence?
I agree.
I will say, I did appreciate, even if I didn't quite follow, because it's been quite some time since I've read Mysteries of Udolpho, how they did give us a scene from the show.
That was fun.
Their fictional show that they created.
Because you don't really, in any of the adaptations, get a lot of real insight into... Sorry, my cat. You don't really get a lot of real insight into the Mysteries of Udolpho, minus, the little blips that we hear. Mm-hmm. But this was like a whole scene. And I think that was extremely entertaining.
I don't know if there's anything else to say about any of the adaptations that we have covered. So I guess what's next is thank you, Jane Austen, for writing this novel.
As always.
I
Really
mean,
not Jane Austen.
seriously, she's part of the reason why we are friends.
Yes, her and that other dead guy.
Mm-hmm.
So, love them. Good job to you, dead people. Thank you to all of you. Is that what's happening next? What's happening next? I'm sorry.
Thank you to everyone who put forth effort in all of these adaptations. We know that takes a lot of time and effort. And even if some of our opinions may not have been favorable, we still appreciate the fact that you did it. Yes.
We'll always appreciate hard work, whether we like it. It's not for us.
Mm-hmm.
It's for somebody else, though. Big thanks to Zakaka. We're in season 2, so look at me thanking Zakaka again for our beautiful artwork and for making our Instagram and Tumblr beautiful to look at. Thanks for tuning in to League of Lit. Make sure you're following us at League of Lit Podcast on Instagram. And if you have any suggestions for an episode, feel free to leave a comment on leagueoflit.tumblr.com.